The market has a way of finding your weakness. It doesn't care how smart you are, or how perfect your setup looks. It will wait, test your patience, then strike where you're emotionally unprepared. That's why most traders don't lose because of bad strategies. They lose because the market exposes the parts of themselves they refuse to fix. Before we go deep, do something simple but powerful. Comment below where you're watching from, what time it is right now, and whether you believe you're still part of the 90% or you're ready to rise into the 10%. And if you're serious about mastering your emotions and learning how to trade with discipline, like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs this message tonight. Because what you're about to hear is not another motivational talk. It's the raw truth the market has been trying to tell you through every loss, every blown account, and every sleepless night staring at your charts. Everyone enters trading with excitement. You see potential. You see freedom. You see an escape from the system. But what you don't see is the storm waiting behind that dream. A storm that doesn't care how hard you study or how good your backtest looks. The market doesn't test your skill first. It tests your character. And that's where most traders lose the battle long before they lose their money. You don't fail because you can't trade. You fail because you can't handle what trading brings out of you. Fear, greed, ego, impatience. All the parts of you that were invisible in everyday life suddenly start screaming when real money is on the line. And that's when you realize something powerful. Trading doesn't build character, it reveals it. Every loss you take is a mirror. It reflects your self-control, your discipline, your beliefs about yourself. When you move your stop-loss, it's not bad strategy, it's emotional denial. When you take revenge trades, it's not passion, it's pain looking for validation. When you close early because you can't stand watching a small pullback, that's not risk management. That's fear disguised as logic. Most traders think they're in control, but the truth is they're not trading the market, they're trading their emotions. They see setups, but they react to feelings. And as long as your emotions are in charge, the market owns you. That's why 90% of traders never make it. Not because they don't understand price action, but because they can't understand themselves. They think it's about timing entries, catching tops and bottoms, or finding the perfect system. But it's not. The market doesn't reward knowledge, it rewards emotional stability. The ones who make it, the 10%, they've learned to sit through discomfort. They've learned how to detach. They've learned that you don't trade to prove you're right. You trade to protect your edge. They don't chase, they don't panic. And they don't measure success by the outcome of one trade. Because they've learned the hardest lesson in this game. Winning is a long-term result of emotional control, not short-term excitement. You can't build consistency with chaos inside you. Your equity curve will always follow your emotional curve. When you're calm, your trades are clean. When you're emotional, your charts become noise. That's the unspoken truth of trading. Your results are a reflection of your internal state. And that's what makes this game so brutal. You're not competing with other traders. You're competing with your impulses, your fear, your greed, your self-doubt. You're fighting your own biology, the dopamine that spikes after a win, the cortisol that floods after a loss. You're at war with yourself every time you click that button. Most people can't handle that war. They'll change systems, switch brokers, jump from one strategy to another, anything to avoid facing themselves. But no matter how many indicators you add, no matter how many setups you learn, the same emotional patterns keep pulling you back to the same mistakes. And the market waits. It doesn't punish you instantly. It lets you think you've got it figured out. Then when your confidence is highest and your guard is lowest, it strikes. Not because it's cruel, but because that's how truth works. The market exposes your weakest point every time you forget what game you're really playing. You can't fake discipline. You can't pretend patience. You either have emotional control or you don't, and the market will show you which one you are. But here's the good news. Once you accept this truth, you stop being a victim of the market. Because now you know where the real battle is. It's not between bulls and bears. It's between your old self and the new one you're trying to become. The 90% never evolve because they keep searching for external answers. They think the solution is out there, in some strategy, some mentorship, some magic setup. But the 10% know the real edge is internal. The edge is your ability to remain centered when the world on your screen is falling apart. The edge is emotional clarity when everyone else is reacting. The edge is not flinching when the candle tests your conviction. That's the truth most traders don't want to hear. To become part of the 10%, you must go through the pain the 90% run away from. Every blown account teaches humility. Every painful loss teaches emotional endurance. Every long period of stagnation tests your patience. And every time you resist the urge to act emotionally, you grow stronger. If this is hitting you right now, pause for a second and think. Think about your last loss. Was it really your strategy that failed? Or was it you breaking your own rules again? Because that question, if you answer it honestly, can change your trading life forever. Drop your city and time in the comments. Tell me if you've ever blown an account and what it taught you. And if you're ready to stop trading like the 90%, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to wake up from the same illusion. Because in the next part, we're going to go deeper into the hidden psychological traps that make traders lose even when they know exactly what to do. You'll understand why smart traders still self-sabotage, and how to finally break that pattern for good. The market has already shown you who you are. Now it's your turn to decide who you're going to become. The market doesn't destroy traders. It simply reveals who they really are. Every losing trader carries the same invisible weight, the illusion that they're in control. That if they can just figure it out, if they can just master the charts, if they can just perfect their entry, then somehow the pain will stop. But that's the first trap, the illusion of control. Trading attracts control freaks, people who want certainty, precision, and predictability. The irony? The market gives none of that. You can't control the outcome of a trade. You can't control the next candle. You can't control volatility, news, or random spikes. But the mind still tries. You move your stop loss just a little bit further. You add to your losing position. It can't go lower. You stare at the screen for hours thinking your focus can somehow bend price in your favor. That's not control. That's emotional addiction. The same chemical loop that keeps gamblers at a slot machine keeps traders glued to their charts, chasing dopamine, avoiding pain, and calling it discipline. When you win, it's euphoria. When you lose, it's shame. And between the two, you stop being a rational operator and become an emotional addict, addicted to uncertainty, addicted to the chase, addicted to feeling something. You tell yourself you're learning, but deep down, you're not trading the market, you're trading your own emotions. You're chasing the same feeling over and over, expecting it to lead to mastery. It never does. That's the second trap, emotional attachment. The need to be right, to feel validated by the market. Because the truth is, most traders don't want to make money. They want to prove they're smart. They want to prove they deserve to win. They want to show they're not like everyone else who failed. But every time you attach your self-worth to an outcome, you lose twice, once in your account and again in your mind. Every loss becomes personal. Every red candle feels like rejection. Every losing streak becomes a question of identity. Am I even meant for this? That's when revenge trading sneaks in, the third trap. It's not about recovering money. It's about recovering control. You want to hit back. You want to teach the market a lesson. You want to erase the memory of that loss by taking another trade. Bigger, faster, harder. That's not trading. That's ego warfare. And ego never wins in a place ruled by uncertainty. The market doesn't care that you've been studying for months. It doesn't care how much you deserve a win. It doesn't even know you exist. The market's job is to expose the part of you that refuses to surrender, the part that needs to win to feel whole. That's why the best traders don't fight for control. They surrender to structure. They trade systems, not emotions. They measure behavior, not predictions. They know that success in trading isn't about knowing what the market will do. It's about knowing what you will do when it happens. Because here's the secret nobody tells you. You don't need to beat the market. You need to beat yourself. Every losing trader lives in resistance, resisting uncertainty, resisting loss, resisting boredom. They think trading is a test of intelligence, but it's a test of emotional endurance. The market doesn't reward the smartest. It rewards the most emotionally stable. And that's the hardest part, because emotional addiction doesn't look like addiction. It looks like grinding. It looks like putting in work. It looks like you're being disciplined when really, you're trapped in your own psychological loop, chasing the next candle to avoid sitting with your own discomfort. You don't lose because you don't know how to trade. You lose because you can't handle what trading reveals about you. That's why 90% fail. Not because they lack strategy, but because they never learn to master their internal chaos. Ego tells you to prove something. Discipline tells you to follow the plan. Emotion tells you to act now. Wisdom tells you to wait. Most traders listen to the loudest voice. The great ones learn to listen to the quiet one, the voice that says, do nothing. Wait for your edge. Protect your capital. It's not exciting. It's not glamorous. But it's the difference between survival and self-destruction. When you stop trading to feel something and start trading to execute something, everything changes. You detach from outcomes. You stop forcing trades. You stop needing to be right. And that's when the market stops attacking you, because there's nothing left for it to take. Now, if you're watching this right now, I want you to pause. Look at the time. Comment below where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Because this moment, this second, might be the shift you've needed. Hit the like button if this hit something deep inside you. Subscribe if you're ready to learn how to think differently. Not like the 90%, but like the few who rise above them. And share this with someone you know who's been losing not because of the market, but because they've been fighting themselves. Because in the next section, we're going deeper. We're going to talk about how to break free from this cycle, how to retrain your mind, detach from results, and finally see trading as the mirror it truly is. Most traders think mastery begins with charts, but it begins with detachment. Emotional detachment isn't about not caring. It's about caring correctly. It's about caring about what you can control, your behavior, your process, your preparation, and letting go of everything else. Every trade has two outcomes, one in your account and one in your mind. The account outcome you can't control. The mental one, that's where transformation begins. Because if every loss still feels like you lost, you'll never grow beyond the need for constant validation. And as long as you need the market to make you feel good, you'll always trade emotionally. Emotional detachment isn't cold. It's clarity. It's the quiet understanding that the outcome of one trade means nothing, that your edge only reveals itself over many trades. It's the ability to say, this trade doesn't define me. My discipline does. And that's the paradox. When you stop needing to win, you start trading in a way that allows you to. When you stop chasing profits, you start building consistency. When you stop measuring success by outcomes, you start finding it in your process. The market tests your identity every single day. If you see yourself as a winner, then one loss destroys you. If you see yourself as a loser, then one win feels like luck. But when you start seeing yourself as a disciplined operator, every trade, win or loss, becomes feedback. That's the shift most traders never make. They chase performance instead of identity. They want to feel like profitable traders before they think like one. But true transformation works in reverse. You must first become the kind of person who deserves consistency before you ever receive it. You must embody the mindset of a professional long before your P&L reflects it. Because trading is not about making money. It's about becoming the kind of person who can keep it. To rewire your trading mindset, you have to destroy three illusions. The illusion of results now. The illusion of emotional safety. The illusion of identity through outcome. Let's break that down. The illusion of results now. That's the voice that says, I've been consistent for a week. I deserve a win. No, you don't. The market doesn't pay for effort. It pays for alignment between your plan, your discipline, and your emotional control. Every trade is neutral. Only your reaction gives it meaning. You must detach from the scoreboard and fall in love with the repetition. That's where process obsession comes in. When you become obsessed with the process, with doing the right thing over and over again, the market starts to reward your patience. Not immediately, but inevitably. Because consistency isn't built in days, it's built in data. It's built in following your system when you don't feel like it. It's built in taking the same boring setups, again and again, while your ego screams for excitement. The market is a mirror, and boredom is one of its sharpest reflections. If you can't sit through boredom, you'll chase drama. And drama is expensive. Process obsession turns you into a scientist. You start collecting data. You track your trades. You measure behavior, not emotions. You stop asking, did I win? And start asking, did I execute correctly? When that shift happens, your trading stops being about prediction and becomes about precision. Not predicting what the market will do, but knowing exactly what you will do next. That's how pros trade. Not from emotion, but from structure. Not from hope, but from habit. And this is where identity transformation happens. Because you can't build consistency with the same mindset that caused inconsistency. You can't expect new results with an old identity. If your identity is built on winning, then every loss breaks it. If your identity is built on discipline, then every loss strengthens it. You start to realize that every mistake isn't failure, it's feedback. Every drawdown isn't punishment, it's purification. It's the market stripping away what doesn't belong to your future self. The profitable version of you, the calm, patient, rational version, doesn't trade emotionally. They don't need the market to prove their worth. They already know who they are. That's the identity you must grow into. It's not something you achieve through more screen time. It's something you become through self-awareness. So, how do you rewire it? First, awareness. You can't fix what you refuse to feel. Start noticing the moment emotion takes over, the subtle impulse, the urge to click, the whisper of just one more trade. That's the moment the market stops testing your strategy and starts testing your psychology. Second, replacement. When emotion rises, fall back on structure. Have a checklist, a breathing pattern, a system that takes over when your emotions try to hijack your actions. That's not weakness. That's automation of discipline. Third, repetition. You can't rewire emotion with logic. You rewire it with consistent repetition, trade by trade, day by day, until discipline becomes automatic. Until calm becomes your default state. Because in trading, mastery isn't the absence of emotion, it's the management of it. You will still feel fear. You will still feel greed. But they will no longer drive your decisions. That's when you start operating like a machine in a world full of emotion. And in that silence, that calm detachment, you start to see what the 90% can't. You start noticing how noise manipulates others. You stop chasing every move. You wait. You watch. You act only when your system tells you to. That's emotional freedom, not needing the market to behave, not needing outcomes to validate your worth. Just executing. Just adapting. Just being present. And if you've been watching this far, that tells me something about you. You're not just another trader looking for quick results. You're someone ready to rewire from within. So pause this right now. Comment below where you're watching from and what time it is. Because awareness starts with presence, and presence is the foundation of control. If this resonated, hit that like button. Subscribe for more trading psychology videos that dig beneath the charts, into the mind behind the moves. And share this with someone still chasing setups but ignoring their inner setup, the one that truly matters. Because in the next section, we're diving even deeper into how to build the system that protects you from yourself. The rituals, the structure, the daily habits that make detachment real and transform you from reactive to relentless. Structure is what keeps your discipline alive when motivation dies. Because let's be honest, motivation will die. Every trader starts with it. Few keep it. The ones who do, they build systems that work without feelings. Every professional trader you admire isn't trading off willpower. They're trading off ritual. Ritual is discipline in motion. It's what you fall back on when your emotions start whispering lies. It's what keeps you from clicking that revenge trade. It's what stops you from thinking, just one more time. See, the market's chaos is constant. News drops. Liquidity shifts. Trends break. But your structure, that's your anchor. Without it, you drift. With it, you survive. Let's get brutally real. The 90% lose not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack structure under stress. They trade when they feel like it. They risk whatever feels right. They chase what looks promising. They operate emotionally in a profession that rewards precision. If you want to join the 10%, your day can't begin with randomness. It begins with ritual. Start before the market even opens. Because trading doesn't begin at the first candle. It begins in your mindset before you ever click buy. Every morning, your job isn't to predict. It's to prepare your state. You wake up, and you align your mind before you align your charts. That means reviewing your trading plan, writing your key levels, breathing. Yes, literally breathing before the storm. Asking yourself, what would a disciplined trader do today? You can't be two people. You can't be calm before entry and emotional after. You can't be structured on paper and impulsive in execution. So your morning routine has one job: to merge who you want to be with how you will act. Because trading isn't about setups, it's about state management. Your rituals are your safety net. They make sure that when chaos hits, your response is automatic, not emotional. That's what resilience looks like. Resilience isn't toughness, it's consistency under pressure. It's the ability to stay operational when your emotions are screaming for you to break your rules. That's why structure isn't restrictive. It's freedom. Freedom from impulses. Freedom from chaos. Freedom from your old self. And structure doesn't stop when the trade is live. It continues through every stage. When you're in a trade, your system dictates everything. Entry, risk, exit, position size, maximum daily loss. If any of those depend on how you feel, you're gambling, not trading. You don't decide in the heat of the moment. You decide before the heat ever arrives. The best traders in the world, the ones who survive decades, aren't reacting to the market. They're executing their predefined process inside the market. That's what separates chaos from control. Your structure must include a post-trade ritual, too. After each session, you log. You journal. You review your emotional patterns. Because your data isn't just numbers, it's behavioral evidence. It tells you who you become under pressure. It reveals the emotional triggers that cost you the most. Maybe it's boredom. Maybe it's FOMO. Maybe it's revenge. Until you see it written down, it'll keep controlling you from the shadows. That's why journaling isn't optional. It's your mirror. It forces honesty. It exposes the part of you that wants to hide behind bad luck. Write what you felt before the trade. Write what you thought during the trade. Write what you learned after the trade. That's how you evolve, not through profits, but through awareness. Now let's talk about mental resilience. Because even with structure, your mind will still get tested. Resilience isn't built in winning streaks. It's built in the drawdowns you survive without breaking character. When you lose, and you will, your rituals must protect you. They must stop you from spiraling. That's why you build recovery systems. When you take a loss, you stop trading for the day. You journal the trade and the emotion. You review your risk. You walk away. You step back, breathe, reset. Not because you're weak, but because you're a professional managing energy. The amateurs think they can fight emotion through force. Professionals manage it through systems. You can't outwill adrenaline. You have to redirect it. That's why resilience is a practice, not a personality. Every day, your routine reinforces who you are becoming. You're no longer trading to win. You're trading to execute perfectly. And when that mindset locks in, even losing trades feel like victories, because they prove your discipline held. That's mental mastery. That's emotional power. And it's not built through hype. It's built through habit. Every small act of discipline. Every time you obey your stop loss. Every time you pass on a setup that's almost right. Every time you close the laptop instead of forcing a trade. You're wiring a new identity. You're training your nervous system to associate calm with control. And over time, the market can't shake you anymore. That's when you stop chasing consistency. Because you've become it. And if you've made it this far in this video, that tells me you're not average. You're one of the few who actually care about doing this the right way. So here's what I want you to do. Pause. Look at the clock. Comment below where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Then type this in the comments. I will build my structure. Because that's how you separate yourself from the 90%. Not by hoping, not by predicting, but by building systems that outlast emotion. If this message is hitting you deep, hit that like button. Subscribe if you're serious about becoming a trader who operates from calm, not chaos. Share this with the trader who keeps breaking their own rules. The one who needs to hear that structure isn't a prison, it's protection. Because in the next section, we're going to the final transformation. We'll talk about the emotional evolution that happens when you finally stop identifying as a trader who's learning and start living as a professional who executes. That's where the 10% live. Not in luck, but in alignment. Becoming part of the 10% isn't about finding the perfect setup. It's about finding yourself. Because the market doesn't care about your strategy, your goals, or your dreams. It only reflects your state of mind. When you finally accept that truth, something inside you shifts forever. That shift, that internal evolution, is what separates the consistent from the chaotic. It's the moment you stop needing to trade for validation and start trading from identity. This is the final transformation. The moment you cross from emotional trader to professional operator. It doesn't happen in a single winning trade. It happens in the quiet, the days you stay disciplined when no one's watching, the moments you walk away instead of forcing a setup, the nights you review your plan while others chase excitement. That's where mastery is born, not in intensity, but in stability. Because being part of the 10% isn't about being right more often. It's about being centered when everyone else is breaking down. You've seen what happens when emotions lead. Ego wants to prove. Fear wants to protect. Greed wants to chase. Hope wants to delay the truth. But the 10%, the real professionals, have transcended that emotional noise. They've replaced impulse with structure, reaction with reflection, emotion with execution. They don't fight their emotions, they understand them. They know fear will always whisper. They know greed will always tempt. They know boredom will always try to pull them off their path. But they've trained their awareness to watch these emotions without obeying them. That's emotional neutrality, the holy ground of trading psychology. When you reach that level, you stop seeing wins and losses as personal. A win doesn't inflate you. A loss doesn't break you. Both are just data points in the same process. That's when the market stops feeling like a battlefield and starts feeling like a feedback loop. You're not being punished or rewarded. You're being refined. You start realizing that every moment, every red candle, every fake breakout, every frustrating chop, is just the market asking, have you truly mastered yourself yet? And one day, you'll look at the screen and realize it's quiet. Not because the market changed, but because you did. That noise that used to control you, it's still there. You just don't identify with it anymore. You've become the observer. You're watching, not reacting. You're waiting, not chasing. You're trading, not fighting. That's when trading becomes peaceful. That's when you enter what some call flow state, where time slows down, where every move feels deliberate, where you're no longer guessing, you're seeing. It's not that losses stop happening. It's that they stop hurting, because you've built the emotional capital to absorb them. You've accepted that losing is part of winning, and you've made peace with it. That peace is power, because when you no longer fear losing, you finally trade freely. You stop trying to avoid discomfort, you embrace it. You stop running from uncertainty, you live inside it. And that's when the market starts rewarding you, not because it changed, but because you became aligned with how it works. You stopped fighting the tide. You learned to flow with it. That's the 10%. That's where mastery lives. Every decision you make from that place comes from clarity, not chaos. You don't trade to make money. You trade to express mastery. You don't chase profits, you let discipline compound them. You don't need external results, because your internal system already operates like a professional. And here's the truth most traders never understand. The market doesn't create winners. It reveals them. Your growth isn't measured by P&L. It's measured by peace. When you can lose and still sleep well. When you can win and stay humble. When you can take a setup and walk away without anxiety. That's when you've arrived. That's when trading stops being about charts and starts being about character. The 10% don't have fewer emotions. They just don't let emotions become actions. They feel the wave, but they ride it instead of drowning in it. And the only way to reach that level is through consistency in behavior, not consistency in outcome. You must live like a trader before you profit like one. Your life outside the charts will mirror your performance inside them. If you're disciplined in your habits, you'll be disciplined in your trades. If you're chaotic in your thoughts, your trades will mirror that chaos. The market is simply showing you. That's why the final transformation isn't about adding more. It's about subtracting. Removing the noise. Removing the ego. Removing the constant need to prove yourself. Until all that's left is clarity, presence, and peace. That's the trader the market respects. That's the trader the market rewards. That's the trader you've been building since the moment you decided to stop being part of the 90%. And if you're here right now, still watching, that tells me you're serious. You're not just looking for shortcuts. You're looking for transformation. So do me a favor, pause this video. Look at the time. Comment below where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Then type these words. I choose mastery over emotion. That's your declaration. That's your line in the sand. Hit the like button if this message found you at the right time. Subscribe if you're ready to walk the path of a disciplined, emotionally free trader. And share this video with someone who's still lost in the noise, because they might need this awakening as much as you did. Remember, the market has always been neutral. The question is, can you be? The 90% react. The 10% respond. The 90% trade outcomes. The 10% trade their edge. The 90% fight themselves. The 10% master themselves. The choice is yours. It always has been. Welcome to the other side. Welcome to the 10%.